Hi, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and finally, man, the Commanders finally will have a joint practice with another NFL team during training camp, and the opponent is the Ravens. It makes too much sense for so many reasons. I'm gonna break down all of the details of when all of this is happening and everything like that, and I also want to take a look at the roster and see who needs these joint practices the most. And it's not just players, coaches as well, man. And just the fact that who we're going against with Lamar Jackson, with him being so mobile, their improved receiving core, they have a good tight end. We've struggled covering tight ends. We got to go against a really fast, talented defense that have a lot of guys that I really love on it. Kyle Hamilton, Roquan Smith, and things like that. I feel like this is a great practice matchup because the Ravens are a sleeping giant in the NFL, and I would definitely prefer to practice against them rather than another team that isn't providing much competition and difficulty for us to improve. So we got to talk about all of that and more, but before we do, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get notification immediately. And every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, make sure you pull up this upcoming Sunday for the Commanders Call-In live show where y'all call in, you voice your opinions on everything going on. We're going to talk draft, of course. We can do a little bit more review. We can even do some all 22, looking at some stuff like that. We can talk team ownership. We can talk about all of the news that's gone down within the past 2 weeks. It's been a chaotic 2 weeks, man. We got to talk about everything. But without further ado, let's get it.
You tell your family you're going to be a commander.
First of all, I want to go ahead and give you the schedule. Rookie minicamp was May 11th through 13th for the Washington Commanders. Everybody doesn't do everything on the same exact days, just to give you a heads up. And then the next things coming up are OTAs, which is May 23rd through the 25th, then May 30th through June 1st, and then June 13th. So those are the next times that we'll see players out there doing a lot of things. And this is going to be the first time that we see the veterans out there with the rookies. I mean, granted, there were like a handful of veterans, but they were kind of like roster bubble guys that was there at rookie minicamp. OTA is going to be the first time that we basically see Braden Daniels block against potentially like Montez Sweat and things like that. Now, they're not going to be going too crazy. It's not like it's going to be like fully padded, all kinds of contact and things like that. But it's going to be the first time that we see Ricky Strongberg matched up against like Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, Emmanuel Forbes versus Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, all of that type of stuff. Quan Martin out there. That's going to be the first time we see the rookies, all of the young guys with all of the dominant veterans that we have on this team. So I'm really excited about that. And then mandatory minicamp is June 6th through 8th. I don't believe this year that we'll have any holdouts. We seem to always just have somebody like Chase Young one time and things like that. We'll see how that goes. I believe we had like Jonathan Allen, maybe. Oh no, Terry McLaurin definitely held out when he was trying to get his contract, I believe, and things like that. I don't think we should have that problem this year. I know Cameron Curl's trying to get his money. I know like Curtis Samuel, Antonio Gibson, quite a few guys are coming up on their contracts right now. Their contracts end after this 2023 season, but I don't think we should have any mandatory minicamp holdouts or any training camp ones. And I believe we don't exactly know the training camp days yet. I think that's still to be announced. We'll see. I'll keep you updated on that. If it is, I will definitely get back to y'all on that. But either way, we know what rookie minicamps already passed. We know when the OTAs are for the Commanders, and we know when mandatory minicamp is. Mark your calendars, because of course I will be giving y'all updates and highlights and observations, analysis, and everything from all of those practices. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But most importantly, what I'm really excited about as far as this video goes is that it will be a battle of the Beltway, because the Commanders and the Baltimore Ravens will have a joint practice, and I'm super excited. August 15th through 16th, it will be 2 days worth of practices, and as long as there isn't a DeAndre Hopkins there, we should be fine, because a lot of people are comparing Emmanuel Forbes to D'Angelo Hall, and remember the last time we had a D'Angelo Hall player on our team, DeAndre Hopkins pulled up, and it got ugly. So I don't even want to talk about it. Brings up sad memories, brings up PTSD. Really don't. As long as the Ravens don't have a DeAndre Hopkins, and there was a rumors going around like months ago that they were trying to trade for him. Thank goodness they didn't, because that would have taken this perfectly sweet, only positives coming out of this joint practice situation to there being a slightly sour, slight negative to it. I don't want to see DeAndre Hopkins in a joint practice ever again as a fan of the burgundy and gold. Either way though, the Commanders will have 2 days of joint practices again, August 15th and 16th, with the Ravens at the Under Armour Performance Center in Owings Mills, Maryland, ahead of the preseason game at FedEx Field on August 21st. So we have a joint practice for 2 days, and then that leads up to our preseason game against the Ravens as well. We both play our preseason games August 21st, so we practice where the Ravens practice, and then we play where the Commanders play, back to back. I love that idea. I love that a lot. Everybody wins. Practice we're in Baltimore, where Baltimore likes to practice, and then we play in Maryland, still pretty close to Baltimore, not even having to go all the way down to Virginia. And it seems just like a win-win for everybody to me. And this just makes so much sense in many different ways. We're going to get to that when we start to really look at the roster, but I know Rivera has been saying that he's wanted this for years, but just couldn't make it happen. He could just never get things to go along, for schedules to match up, and maybe people just didn't like us. I believe like the Bills, we almost had them, but then the J.D. McKissick situation happened. I'm not sure. I'm just guessing. I believe that's what I heard, but I'm not 100% sure, so don't take that as truth automatically. But man, I'm really excited. The Baltimore Ravens make too much sense. They're just so close. They're right there from FedEx Field to where they practice at the Under Armour Performance Center in Owings Mills, Maryland. It just makes too much sense. And Ron Rivera also mentioned back in January that this could be a possibility. And so I'm really excited about all of the opportunities for competition that we have coming up right now. First of all, Lamar Jackson on offense. And then the Ravens defense was 10th in yards allowed last year. So thank goodness. Now looking at the roster, some of the people that really need this joint practice the most. First of all, we got to start with Eric Bieniemy. He has to learn how to basically orchestrate this offense. Now they've been putting in crazy work, going all the way back to months ago. Ever since we hired Eric Bieniemy, he's been forcing all of the offensive coordinators and coaches and things like that, offensive lines coach, tight ends coach, wide receivers coach, all of that. Once we hired everybody and have everybody in place, he's been making them show up to meetings at 7 a.m. so they can work through a lot of the logistical stuff with the offense and wording and strategy, scheme, and things like that. Before we even get to the players, we as coaches need to all be on the same page. They were meeting at 7 a.m. Not required at all. Completely voluntary. Just something that Eric Bieniemy wanted to do to make sure that he hit the ground running as soon as he became our offensive coordinator and our assistant head coach. You got to remember that as well. So we're going to have quite a few practices before now and then when we have that joint practice with the Ravens, but still that's going to be very helpful for Eric Bieniemy to get some real live experience against a really good team. Again, a defense that was 10th in yards allowed last season. So that's going to be, and if anything, they only got better. Kyle Hamilton's only getting better. Shouts out to him. Y'all know I'm a big Kyle Hamilton fan, mostly because he's from Atlanta, but also I just love his talent. That defense is ridiculous. I know a lot of us wanted the safety, Marcus Williams. He's still over there. They have Marlon Humphrey at corner, Rocky Sin, Tyus Bowser, Patrick Queen, who they didn't pick up his fifth-year option, so we got to monitor that situation. They're the ones that drafted Trenton Simpson. Don't forget about David Ojabo. He was supposed to be a really good pass rusher, but he got hurt. Pretty much missed the entire last season. So we're going to see how he develops. You can't forget my Georgia Bulldog, Roquan Smith. I mean, this is a really talented defense, a very athletic, versatile defense. It's going to be a really good matchup for us to determine where we stand against the rest of the league and to improve. Where we'll find out directly, okay, we need to be better at this. We need to be better at this. As offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy looking at the situation like, okay, we got to figure this out right here. Like, this needs major work. We're good here, but this part of our offense needs major work. It may not even be a specific player or a specific position group. It may be a specific style of offense. Like, how is our third and short game? How is our red zone offense? How is our 2-minute offense? Like little random aspects of football that are just so important when you really take a step back and look at it all, how it all orchestrates together, comes together, all that type of stuff. So that's going to be invaluable experience for us, man. I'm really excited about that, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And not even just speaking of Eric Bieniemy as the offensive coordinator, we got to see what Sam Howell looks like against one of the better defenses in the NFL, man. Again, and they've only gotten better. I feel like 10th in yards allowed, already said that, but again, you got to factor in the fact that they added loads of talent this past offseason through the draft and free agency. So if anything, they're only going to be better. And then Patrick Queen is out there trying to ball out for his next contract. So if anything, you're going to get the best out of him. So I'm really excited. Now, of course, it is practice, so it's not like they're going out there and putting their lives on the line, but it's still a really good standard to match up against as far as the offense versus the defense. So I'm really excited. Of course, we got to see Sam Howell, his connection with the receivers. Is the timing on? It's not just being accurate, it's also being there with the timing and knowing exactly when and where to throw the ball to these receivers. Also got to see what these tight ends look like, because they have a lot of good coverage linebackers over there. We got to see if our tight ends, our receiving tight ends, we have a lot of faith in. I especially do in Armani Rogers. We got to see if Logan Thomas is back to his 2021 self, like Rivera and company feel like he is. Cole Turner, Curtis Hodges, a lot of these guys that we brought in, we got to see if they can do anything in the receiving game, because John Bates can block. Armani Rogers is improving and things like that. I'm not too worried about the blocking, even though I am a little worried, but I really want to see how these guys can contribute in the passing game. And I feel like this is a good matchup with them having such good linebackers and safeties that can match up against guys like tight ends. And then offensive line wise, I mean, that's probably one of my biggest worries going into the regular season. Like, if the regular season were tomorrow, one of my biggest worries on the team, arguably the biggest worry of the team that I have right now, is what this offensive line is going to look like out there. Because as of right now, I guess Charles Leno is just starting left tackle. Chris Paul is just starting left guard. You would love it if Ricky Strongberg is your starting center, but maybe not just yet. So maybe assuming Nick Gates is your starting center. Then you have Samuel Cosme at right guard, Andrew Wiley at right tackle. Now, before we get to this practice, which again is in mid-August, you know, we should have a lot more things figured out. By then, we should know who's potentially our starting left guard, who should be our starting center and things like that. But you never know. We may get there and we're still just shuffling things around. Hopefully by then we have a consistent starting offensive line. Hopefully everybody's healthy. But as of right now, but the way that I feel about the offensive line right now, there's a lot of talent, there's a lot of potential. I'm not going to act like it doesn't have a certain ceiling, but I'm worried about the floor. Where is this floor at with this offensive line, especially to protect a young quarterback as Sam Howell, who has only completed 11 passes in his NFL career so far, and a new offensive coordinator? There's so much new that, man, the offensive line has to be that solid rock that holds the offense together. But at the same time, they're probably the newest part of this whole team. So this is going to be really interesting. I think the Ravens are a great matchup for that. And then defensively, I'm really excited because, man, we struggle. We always say every year, if there's any defense that should be ready for athletic quarterbacks, running quarterbacks, it should be this one, because our defense is very athletic, especially our defensive line, our edge rushers specifically, and things like that. Our linebackers have sideline to sideline speed, things like that. That's why we have Jamin Davis. We brought in Cody Barton. We still got to see with him. But we keep saying, like, man, if there were a defense that could potentially slow down a Lamar Jackson, a Kyler Murray, who we more than likely won't have to play week one out of the way, but like a Jalen Hurts and things like that, is ours, because we have a lot of freak athletes in our defensive group, but it just hasn't produced on the field yet. Athletic quarterbacks have been killing us. Marcus Mariota in that Falcons running game super killed us last year. We barely got away with a win in that one, and the Falcons weren't even good last year. They're going to be even better this upcoming season, so we got to be ready for that. So I think Lamar Jackson is perfect practice, because he's the most mobile quarterback in football right now, still to this day. As of right now, is Lamar Jackson. If we're talking mobility, we'll see about where Anthony Richardson is, but I still think Lamar Jackson got it out of the way. If we can look good against Lamar Jackson, scheming against him, figuring out how to disrupt his timing and keep him in a box to where he doesn't make too many plays against our defense, if we can do it against him, we can do it against anybody, and us practicing against them is going to be fun. But now we have these young corners, man. Benjamin St-Juste going into his third year, but he hasn't given us a fully healthy season yet. So it's like, if we're talking about games played, this is kind of like his second year that he's going into right now. And then you just drafted Emmanuel Forbes in the first, Quan Martin in the second. We're going to see about Percy Butler in the rotation. Derek Forrest is still fairly raw, even though he showed a lot of flashes last year. This is a pretty young and inexperienced secondary overall. And so they got to get ready to go against Rashad Bateman, who, when healthy, should be an X-receiver for the Ravens. And then you got Odell Beckham Jr. Zay Flowers should basically just be a more productive Marquise Brown, who ended up going to the Cardinals. I mean, this team, Nelson Aguilar off the bench. I don't know why they have Andy Isabella, but Devin Duvernay is just one of those guys. If you play fantasy football, you know he's just destined to break out once or twice a season. And so he's just so random, but it can happen. You got to keep an eye on him as well. I think this is a really nice receiver core for our secondary, especially our young secondary, especially these rookies, Emmanuel Forbes and Quan Martin, to match up against to see where we're at. And I'm really excited because, again, we get to practice against them for 2 days. And then like 5 days later, we play against them in a preseason game. So I'm really excited about that. And then also they have a really good tight end in Mark Andrews, top 8 tight end in the NFL. And even Isaiah Likely, you got to kind of watch for him a little bit as well. So I got to see where Cody Barton and Jamin Davis are as far as coverage against tight ends. And whoever else we may ask to cover tight ends, Quan Martin in the box. Cameron Curl is your star, or your Buffalo nickel, whatever you want to call him. The Commanders call him Buffalo nickel, so I got to remember remember to keep calling it Buffalo nickel. As a Georgia Bulldog fan, we call it star position. So I'm trying to remember Buffalo nickel. My bad for that. But either way, same thing. But Derek Forrest, maybe you rotate him in. Maybe we're trying to figure out a thing where Percy Butler is just starting free safety, Cameron Curl just starting strong safety. Maybe Derek Forrest is just starting Buffalo nickel. You're starting hybrid safety type of guy, and then you can't forget Quan Martin. I think he's going to start. Quan Martin seems like he's going to be so good that you got to keep him on the field regardless. If that means you play him as your starting slot corner, you play him at free safety, you play him at strong safety in the box, whatever. Either way, Quan Martin and Cameron Curl are two guys that need to be on the field as much as possible. And we'll figure out Derek Forrest, we'll figure out Kendall Fuller, we'll figure out Percy Butler around all of that whenever we can. But from so far, what I've seen just off of film study, we got to see what he does on the field and things like that, especially leading up to these practices. But I'm thinking he's going to be on the field quite a bit, and I just want to see how they look against these guys, especially these receivers and especially those tight ends. But don't forget, they have some running backs to make plays too. J.K. Dobbins when healthy, Gus Edwards when healthy, Justice Hill, when he needed to step up, he made plays as well. So I'm really excited to see how they handle the running game as well, because you got to not only worry about Lamar Jackson, but they have some pretty good running backs with some speed to them. Can't wait to see what this front seven looks like against that as well. And then this offensive line. We know our defensive line should be dominant. It should be the best in the NFL, but they got to go out there and prove it. And so even though I know Chase Young and Montez Sweat are going to give it their all, because they're on a contract year, both of those guys are in the final year of their contracts, they're out there playing for their next contract. They're going to be giving it their all. So I'm expecting big things out of them. Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, they're as consistent as it gets. So I'm expecting big things out of the defensive line in general, but I can't wait to see what KJ Henry looks like, because I'm one of those guys that's talking him up and thinking he can end up being a really good edge rusher for us. And if we end up losing Montez Sweat or Chase Young, he should be able to fill in quite nicely and be that starting edge rusher opposite of the guy that ended up staying. And we got to see a little bit of it. I mean, granted, with us picking him when we picked him in the draft, later in the draft, it's not like you necessarily expect him to start immediately, but I think KJ Henry has enough talent to where he should be able to contribute a lot this year and be ready to start the following year, the 2024 season. And I think it starts with this joint practice against the Ravens with Ronnie Staley on one side and then Morgan Moses on the other. I gotta see it, man. Show me something, KJ Henry. Don't make me look crazy out here. So yeah, I'm really excited about this joint practice, man. I think this is a great matchup for us again. Eric Bieniemy has to get the offense down. Sam Howell has to learn to be a starting quarterback at the NFL level. Everybody's doubting him. CBS has him ranked as the worst quarterback in the NFL, like 32nd, even after rookies that haven't even played a single game, even below Anthony Richardson. I love him. I believe in his talent. I think he's going to be a great quarterback. I'm one of those guys that does believe he will reach his ceiling. But as of today, he's better than Sam Howell. It's just the disrespect is insane. So we got to see that. I want to see how well we cover tight ends. I want to see how well this young secondary does against a really talented receiving core in the Ravens. I want to see how this defense handles a mobile quarterback, the god tier of mobile quarterbacks, and Lamar Jackson, especially after he got his money. I want to see how KJ Henry and a lot of our depth edge rushers look against a really good offensive line in the Ravens. And then I want to see, how are we going to look against this really good Ravens defense? They may not be the best defense in the NFL, but they're very talented, and they were really good last year, and they're probably only going to be better this upcoming season. How do we match up against that? And of course, specifically, a lot of the guys that we brought in, a lot of the free agents, a lot of the rookies that we just drafted, how do they look? I'm even curious about some undrafted free agents, man. I want to see how a lot of these guys look out there. Even fourth string quarterback Tim DeMarat, can you go out there and look good enough to at least become our third string quarterback? You should be able to beat out Jake Fromm. You should be able to. We'll see though. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please leave a like in this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. Let me know how you feel about this joint practice. Are you as excited as I am? I feel like this should be a unanimous, everybody in Commanders Nation should be happy about this. But there's always those set few people, and I want to know if you're one of those people that doesn't like the joint practice, why do you not? Of course, if you do, let me know why you do, and what position groups, what players, what specific parts of football are you really looking at during these joint practices in the upcoming preseason game that you feel like the Commanders need to work on the most. Of course, again, for me, offensive line, their chemistry and how well they look out there as a cohesive unit and communication and things like that, ID and potential blitzers and things, all of that type of stuff. I gotta see if they're able to handle that. That's probably my number one priority, and then it's all the other stuff already listed. So let me know how you feel about all of that, and of course I appreciate all the support, man. Again, leave a like on this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.